Hello, everyone, and welcome to ETCIO TV, wherein we bring you views and analysis from some of the leading digital leaders globally. Today, I have with me Akhilesh Tuteja, Head of Digital Consulting for KPMG in India. Welcome, Akhilesh. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Shipra. Pleasure.
So, Akhilesh, I actually, want to start this conversation going back to one of your TEDx talks, which I found it very interesting. You spoke about AI as the boss. Now, before I actually get further into it, what do you mean when you say AI is the new boss? Is it still in the realms of science fiction, or is it actually a reality today?
Shipra, thank you so much for bringing in memories back of that interesting conversation. Uh, all of us have realized that AI is now the mainstream in our lives. Sometimes we recognize and sometimes we don't. So we all use AI several times a day. So every time you step out of the house and look at your Google Maps, that's AI working for you to find the best route for you to get from point one to point two. Every time you just do a Google search and Google is trying to predict what search item you're going to look at, that's AI working for you. Or even doing some basic tasks like talking to your Alexa or doing something else, AI has become part of our life much more than we actually realize. But if you talk about the business world, AI is making big shift in terms of doing the tasks which were earlier done by humans. And all of us feel better because we seem to be controlling AI, and there are many kinds of either robotic processes or industrial robots which are controlled by artificial intelligence. There are many machine learning models, be it a financial services world where you predict somebody's credit score, or for predicting the sales in an automobile industry. We use AI every single day. And we kind of got used to it and we feel good that we are controlling a machine. But what we sometimes don't realize is that it's not just that we controlling the machine. There is also an equally important dimension which AI is having in our world, where AI is actually controlling humans. Now, of course, it may not be of the same level of magnitude which we have seen. It tells them where to go. Uber app tells them who to pick up. It tells them which route to take, or it even tells them how to collect money. And that's not all. The app also gives them the rating at the end of every trip, at the end of every month, and at the end of every incentive cycle. So it's like all these aspects of a performance manager on directing tasks, assigning tasks, evaluating your tasks is all being done by this Uber app. Now, what is an Uber app? No individual, no group of people. It is a plain, simple artificial intelligence app, which is actually controlling thousands of those people. And that's not the only example. There are many examples. So, for example, the industry which has now lived with machine bosses, as I call them, for a long time is call center industry. So when a call lands up at the call center, who decides who will pick up that next call? It is based on the skill, availability, and the past performance. Based on that, if it's a credit card call for getting the balance, it might get to a relatively unskilled person. But if it is about somebody trying to cancel their card and you need to retain that person, it'll go to the most specialized person. So there is a lot of machines in our world which we are controlling, but equally important, we are getting controlled by machines. Sometimes we don't realize it.
So from what I get is that this is no longer just about science fiction, what we used to read about 10 years back, but it's something which is actually happening in reality. We do have AI bosses in our work environments now. You actually made out a case for an AI boss in your talk. So why should there be and why should AI be our boss? What case do you make for it?
I love machines, and sometimes my love for machine can exceed my love for humans. Sorry, I don't mean it that way. I absolutely love humans, and I think we are because we exist together. But there are several advantages which the AI as a performance manager or a boss brings to us. The first and foremost, if you look at it in knowledge economy more than the other industrial economy, most of the people suffer from the workplace bias. We all get evaluated by humans, and if at all there is one thing which all of us possess as human is uniqueness. We are different, we are special, and therefore our worldview of looking at our people who work for us is also unique. So sometimes I may like somebody and I may not like somebody. So that's one big issue which we have as a human boss, that we are biased. Machine, for one, is less likely to be biased. I do want to highlight that machines are not unbiased. Machines are also biased, but they are less likely and they can be controlled. Their bias is a little bit more to be controlled. The second, I always say that machines don't have the kind of outburst emotions as the way we have. I would hate to work for a boss who doesn't have a good domestic life, because if she or he is coming every day, that's going to create a lot of trouble. Good news is that the machines don't have domestic lives to worry about. So their moods are generally predictable and consistent. And the third thing is that the machines can learn and improve on their own boss behavior faster than we as human can. So in my view, there are many, many great reasons. Of course, I'm not even talking about the efficiency, quality, productivity, and the actual cost of being a boss. Those are very tangible and important factors. But I think, in my view, the more irrational points which we need to consider are also equally important case for a machine boss.
Some of the case that you pointed out were more to do with emotions. You mentioned that the machines will not have the kind of outburst like a human being will have, in case they're having a bad day. But that also means that the machines do not have the empathy to understand, certain circumstances, or personal circumstances or work circumstances that a person is undergoing. So does that kind of is it a con to machine being a boss?
So there are certainly lots of disadvantages of having machine as a boss, because we don't work just for being paid. We don't work just for being recognized. I'm sure all of us have studied various research which talks about that people don't leave jobs, people don't leave companies, they leave their bosses. So the emotional bonding which we have with our bosses are extremely important and powerful. There are many other reasons because of which the machines don't make good bosses, by the way. I'll talk about that as well. But just this part, that can machines be a not effective boss because they cannot empathize, have feelings, display emotions? That may not be true. It might be true to some degree now. But the speed with which the evolution of artificial intelligence is happening, I have no doubt in my mind that they will surpass human beings even in those emotional fields. I'll give you a couple of examples and then I come back to this point. So, a lot of people earlier thought that the machines are dealing with the area which is largely rule based, rational, and all of that, etc. etc. But let me talk about two things. First one is the Google Art Project, which really talks about creating art which has never been created before. And as you all know, art is a reflection of society, humans, feelings, etc. So today, an AI can actually produce art which has never been produced. That's one example. The second one is another interesting story, which is about when the AlphaGo was playing against Lee Sedol, the champion of the Go tournament. And in one of the games, the machine made a move, in that particular case, AlphaGo, which was a very, I would say, counterintuitive move and was largely unexpected. And that move was made, and later on, that move was named as the God's move, by the way. It's like saying, as if the God helped machine to make that move. So it's not that the machines only learn from us, machines have their own ability to learn. So those are my 2 points. Coming back to the feelings and emotions, I think machines get trained, and in today's time they have the ability to demonstrate or at least create those emotions. They may not be able to express, they may not be able to, we may not see it, but I think it's a matter of time when machines will see that those kind of emotions. For the time being, they have a lot more job to do for the machines to become really emotional and display, express, and connect with us. So for those reasons, yes, right now I would love to work for a human boss.
So yeah, actually, I was going to ask you that, at a very personal level, would you like to have an AI boss?
Uh, Depends on whether my boss is watching this interview or not.
I mean, in the future, do you think you might have an AI boss, or?
I certainly believe I will have. I certainly believe we all will have, in some shape or form, if not the absolute, in some shape or form, we will be managed by machines. And purely because it is going to be more productive, it is going to be more effective. So I think we should all welcome. And as I said, that there is never an extreme. So it's not going to be a situation where there will be only AI bosses. So I'm not talking about where AI takes over the world and we are their slaves. No, I think the management part of our duties can be done by an effective mechanism. The development part of it, the emotional part of it, we will still have humans to deal with that part. So we will have a combination.
So also, does that mean that you yourself are at risk of being replaced by AI, as a boss to your subordinates? At sometime in the future, and not just you, I mean all of us, I mean most of us in the future.
Yes and no. I would say there are lots of jobs which the machines can do as a good manager. So again, I want to now differentiate between the boss as being a general category. And I actually chose that word boss because I did not want to, because if you look at it, the bosses can take various shapes. It could be a director, it could be a manager, it could be a developer, it could be a mentor. So I would think that the early stages, of which is directing and managing part of it, the machines can do that job very well. But when it comes to developing people, when it comes to mentoring people and all of that, I don't see machines doing that job, at least till I retire. And after I retire, who cares?
So, coming to the negative aspects, you said that there are certain aspects of AI being the boss, which are probably not well to its advantage. So, what are some of those aspects that don't work to the advantage of AI as a boss?
Sure. So the first, which is I told about the advantage, can also be partly a disadvantage, which is I said AI can be less biased, but the fact that AI can be biased is an important factor. So the AI does carry all kinds of biases because what they do, they learn from us as individual humans. And because we are biased, we transfer the same bias into machine. So no machine in today's time is completely unbiased. So that factor, that if the machine is biased and that gets visible and that gets known, people tend to or people would not like that fact that it is not truly rational. Just to kind of take you away for a minute, there was a research experiment which was conducted, and in the interest of time, I'll shorten the experiment. It's a very fascinating experiment where the two people who have never met together are paired, and they don't see each other, but they're paired in a manner saying one person is asking, you got $10 and you can split the way you want to split it, but the split has to be accepted by the other person. And if the person accepts it, both of you get it. If the other person does not accept the split you make, none of you will get anything. So let's say, for example, if I'm the one who's a proposer and you are the acceptor, and I say, hey, I got $10, let me split 50-50. So I'll keep $5 for me and 5 for Shipra. Shipra will look at saying, yeah, that's great. I got 5 out of nothing, let me take and go. But the moment people start to say, if I say I got $10, let me do 6 for me and 4 for you. And guess what? In most situations, people like you will say no, because this is an unfair and unequal treatment. I'm happy to accept 5-5, but I'm not happy to accept 4-6 or 3-7 or 2-8. But the same experiment was conducted, and the acceptor in this particular case was told that this split has been arrived at by a random computer program. It's not Akhilesh. Random computer program was given $10, and this has come up saying $8 to Akhilesh and 2 to Shipra. And in most people, they accepted it because they felt that computers can be less rational or computers can be random. But I do not like to work for somebody who's random. So coming back to the fact that when people realize that the machines are not perfect, they will discredit. So that's one thing that we have to address, the bias part of it. The second part, which I see today, and I said that there's a limitation, is that machines can become very task oriented. And we all know that we as humans don't want to be completely task oriented. We want fullness in our job, and especially in knowledge economy and other areas. And I think sometimes too much of control, too much of rule based things can be a big challenge. And third, the opaqueness, the machines, especially the artificial intelligence, these algos are likely to be unexplainable. So when an algo says that your credit rating is X or Y or something, and you ask the same why, that why is generally not answered, and even the machine also most of the time, especially the neural networks, don't know why. So imagine you are sitting in front of your boss and you get a rating and you says why, and the boss says, I don't know, I just arrived at it. Now that will be a disaster to it. So I think there are some of those things which we need to work out before the machines can become a truly effective manager. But till that time, I think there are spectrums which you can deal with it at a fairly good degree of control.
So when you're saying that there are going to be spectrums at several degrees, or so that means that it is irreversible. The workforce will have to adjust and will have to work with this new kind of leaders within the workplace. So how do organizations prepare their workforce for this new leader? It's something which they are not used to at all.
Absolutely. I think we all believe that change is inevitable, although in this particular case, the change is more controllable. So finally, these machine bosses are also being made by humans. So we as humans are more sensible about it. But I think what is really required is our ability to embrace the change. So the organizations need to change people's attitude and behavior to say that how can they work in this new environment? We have seen resistance when a machine is replacing a worker. Imagine when the machine is replacing a manager, it's going to be tougher to some degree. So ability to accept the reality, ability to accept the change is going to be one big thing. The second thing is that how do we create harmony in this new world? Two humans working together can find a bonding. I think we'll have to build skills of how do we find bonding between a human mind and a machine mind.
That's very interesting. What about the managers who are getting replaced? When you said that already there is a lot of disharmony when we talk about machines taking over the jobs. So when we are talking of machines taking over some of the managerial jobs or some of the managers, how do organizations reconcile that, or do they need to build an evolution plan for the managers, or a learning curve for the managers, so that they don't become redundant?
So, my first strong belief is that no amount of artificial intelligence will actually make people completely redundant. The good news is that the universe is expanding, our ability to do certain things is expanding, and therefore the spectrum of work is expanding. And as a result, we human will always be a lot more relevant in the future than we are today. Let me just explain this with a very simple thought experiment. If I go back 100 years, when there was almost very little mechanization, when the industrialization started to happen, people would have thought that everybody will lose their jobs. We are 100 years down the line. I don't think that we have less job today than we had before. We have more jobs because we have created more possibilities. We have created more what I call the multiverses. So if you would have asked somebody 100 years ago saying that, what will you do 100 years from now, or what will your great great grandson will do 100 years from now, I don't think that person will be able to explain. But today their great 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 grandsons are doing some fascinating things which are impossible. And one of the example which one of the person I borrowed from said that, who would have imagined only about 30 years ago that there will be people whose job will be to build, app for an iPhone or an Android. Who would have thought only 30 years ago that there will be a demand for drone pilots? So, and I'm just saying that, who knows that we will need so many pilots to take us to Mars? I can't even imagine. But what I can certainly know is that the kind of jobs which will be there don't exist today and they will get created. And all of those workers and managers, which will actually be replaced by more efficient and effective machines, will actually find even more skillful, and even more creative jobs, which today we cannot anticipate. But I absolutely no doubt in my mind that there will be more jobs for humans, more need for human to do something more fulfilling, and we would not be redundant at all.
Absolutely. So I think it's in a way both the humans and the machines will need to evolve, and we need to reach a point where we have to move beyond the debate of machines taking our jobs. It's time for the evolution for both, and I think the next few years are going to be very interesting as both the humans and the machines evolve and learn to coexist. So thank you so much, Akhilesh, for your time. And it was a fascinating discussion. Sometimes it did seem like I am reading a science fiction novel, but yes, it's a reality today, and we are going to see that happening possibly in our lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you, Shipra. Absolutely enjoyed talking to you. It always is fun. Thank you.
Thank you.